Hello, friends. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Dan.
Yay, nice. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Maria. If we haven't met so far, why haven't we? No, I'm joking. Welcome to Collab Fest. It's day 2 of Collab Fest. We started yesterday meeting up, sharing, learning from each other. We've brought together this amazing group of experts, the Butter Experts Collective, and they've been hanging out with us for the past 2 days, just sharing their methods, their tools, their strategies, giving us a glimpse into their work. In this session, it's all about OKRs. So my check-in prompt for you all, my invitation is to stamp on the emotion that represents how you feel when you need to work on your OKRs. Annette, I see you. Markus is happy, of course. Cheska is like, oh, not sure. Indra loves them. Okay. Cool. I have a bit of let's say, mixed feelings. I'm going to place myself there with Cheska. So OKRs, if you're working in a small, medium, big size company, and eventually you heard about OKRs, eventually you had to work on your OKRs and track them. And they're a great measure of success, but we also know that they can be quite a pain. They're not always working. Companies try to implement them unsuccessfully. We launch them, we pull back on them, and so on. So this session is going to be all about that. What do we do? How do we actually successfully work with them? Where are they? Where can they be successful? And what are possible pitfalls to avoid? Thank you so much for that. And if you, the music you're hearing in the background, by the way, it's fully under your control. If you're hovering over that bottom bar, you can pull it out and then play with the volume and adjust it according to your mood. If you're hearing anything in today's session that really clicks an insight, a light bulb, something that stays with you, we invite you to share it with your network as well, so we can all have this ripple effect of this closed room and bring the learning forward. If you're using the Collab Fest 2022 hashtag and you're tagging Butter, we will be able to see your post, and we have a pretty cool surprise. We're giving away Butter for life to one person who shares their learnings today. And also for 2 lucky winners, they will get 1 year of free Butter, so you can just play around and test all the features and all the good stuff. And so looking forward to read and see your learnings and your takeaways from today's session. And then, who here is for the first time in Butter? I know half of you are hating me right now. That's fine. I take both the love and the hate equally. I don't discriminate. I'm always really keen to see new faces joining us, so that's what this poll is for. And I'm going to kill the music because I want to talk about this format that we've called Spark Talks, and sometimes we just kind of experiment with new formats, especially in a conference where it was all about panels and workshops and so on. We said, hey, can we bring in some other formats? Can we just maybe invent some formats and try some new things out? And so Spark Talks came to be, and this is the first Spark Talk that we're ever doing. So you tell us if this is working by the end of the day. 2 speakers will take the stage one by one for about 15 minutes, and they will share their views, their perspective, a different viewpoint on the same topic, right? So that's what Spark Talks is. We focus on the topic, but then we are inviting several views and several speakers to share on that topic. And today on the menu, we've got OKRs. Yoo-hoo! And so our 2 hosts for today, our two guests we've got on the on the right corner of the Spark Talks, we've got Markus. Hello, Markus. He's the co-founder and the managing director of the award-winning consultant. I want to add award-winning because that sparked some awesome conversations yesterday. Award-winning consultancy agency Neue Beratung. He's been working as management consulting already for the past over 20 years, focusing a lot on innovation and transformation of business models. He's also the editor and author of the German design thinking standard work called Where's the Problem? A podcaster on new work-related topics and a guest author of different various publications on agile management methods. And he's eating OKRs for breakfast. That's what he said. So I guess I have to take his word for it. Markus, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your view on OKRs. And on the left side of the ring, we've got Christopher. Hello. Say hi to the class. Hey, Christopher.
Hello.
He loves the challenges of guiding established companies towards new work, new ways of working. As a teenager with 15, he decided between the career path of a scientist and that of an agency owner. So he picked agency owner. He said, yeah, I'm 15. Other people cannot even drive. So why not fund my own company with the help of my parents? So he did just that. Fast forward some years, a couple of different roles and jobs and crazy professional adventures like a marketing manager and CEO for a startup incubator. Christopher is now the CEO of a remote team of 14 people and an expert in activating a team's superpower, most surely by adding some OKRs special dust there as well.
For sure, yes.
For sure. Brilliant. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We are going to move the session along and we're inviting Markus in the spotlight. Markus, this is your slot. Make the best out of it. And then we're passing the virtual talking stick. For those that attended the session before, we kind of like grabbed into a virtual talking stick and we're passing that to Christopher. Markus, stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It really, I did a few talks yesterday too, and it really was the nicest discussions that I had in such an online or offline event. So thank you very much for this organization and this whole event. I really, really like it. And that's why I really like to contribute something. And Christopher and I, we talked beforehand, how can we build something up together? And I'm going to start with a more general presentation and describing what is OKR, how do we at Neue Beratung understand objectives and key results, and how is my view on the OKRs for distributed teams. And yeah, I'm happy to answer your questions, of course, and to see your perspective. So yeah, that's the point. We live in a new world. I think that everyone feels this. This is also why Butter had such a good start as a company and as a tool, because something changed, and it changed long before the pandemic. And maybe some of you know this acronym VUCA, the VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this is what describes best the world which we are living in, and what businesses today need to deal with. So we see that simple cause and effect lines don't work anymore. So in older times, ancient times, I had one cause, and when I changed the trigger, I could change the effect. Today I have many causes for many effects, and I don't know which one to trigger and which one to pull to have an effect on the other side. And complexity is going up. The speed of developments in the whole world, in the business world, is going up. Supply chains are going crazy, and this is the world we are living in. VUCA. Why Y squared, because the pandemic and the actual situation pushed this over the border. So the world, because of the pandemic, because of speeded up digitization, and the effects of the pandemic of businesses and supply chains leads to more volatility, to more uncertainty, to more complexity in the world, and to more ambiguity. And we have now the situation that we need a change, that we need to change us, our companies, and the way we do business. And the first one, maybe this is something like a headline. We need faster go-to-market. For this volatility, for this speeded up businesses, we need faster products, we need a faster go-to-market, we need to decide faster. And that's the second point. For faster go-to-market, we need faster decisions. And that means it doesn't stop to make your IT organization agile. You need to make your whole organization agile, and you need an agility in decision making, because you always need to speed up and to hold with the speed of your competitors, of substitutes, and of the whole market. On the other hand, we have that effect of more and more distributed teams, work from home, work from anywhere, which is the so-called new normal. Also an effect of the pandemic, but also an effect that had its long tail long before the pandemic. And as a consequence, and because of the war of talents, it's crucial that your company strives to be an attractive employer. And that means you have to give the possibility for work from home, to give the possibility also for working from anywhere. You have to build up a purpose-driven organization, because when you look at the Generation Y, they expect this purpose-driven organization. They want to work for a purpose-driven organization, and the Generation Z also. So this is the situation that we are in, and I don't want to make you fear, because this sounds negative, but this also has some positive effects, because when we jump in these developments, and when we adjust our tools, and when we work with this, we can be very successful. And there are a lot of examples who are very successful. But as you see, this is a new situation, and we need a new answer to this situation. So we need a new tool, we need a brand new tool. And that's why I'm bringing in OKR, because OKR was invented in the 70s. I know it's, thank you. I know it's weird. In fact, OKR is older than me, which feels good. On the other hand, it's OKR is a framework invented 1971 by the former CEO of Intel, Andy Grove. And the original name was Intel Management by Objectives. So Andy Grove took Management by Objectives and transformed it and made something new out of it and called it Intel Management by Objectives. And with this framework and with this manner how to deal with goals and with objectives and how to stretch goals, they won the war against AMD. And it took nearly 30 years till the second role model came up in the name of Google, because John Doerr, he was a venture capitalist, invested in Google, and he brought this framework to the founders of Google. Google had 40 employees at this time, and they said, yes, this might help us to grow fast. So Objectives and Key Results was used by Google to speed up their development, and we all know how successful this is. Nevertheless, it took, again, near to 15 years till it became popular in the business world, and mainly because an employee of Google, Rick Claw, posted a YouTube video which is very famous right now, how Google sets goals, objectives, and key results. And this was really a starting point for a lot of developments around objectives and key results. And today, many companies, startups are using, and older companies are using objectives and key results for their strategy development and deployment. So what is objectives and key results? At the end, or in a nutshell, it is your strategy broken down in slices that you can work on with your teams. So usually we take the strategy of a company and build some midterm goals or molds, how they are called, for around 1 year, and are working with the management of the company on those molds. And then you break down those molds down to short-term goals, which are around for 1 quarter. So 3 months is a typical duration of an OKR circle. And objectives and key results means there are 2 parts. Objectives means just the answer on the question, where do we want to go? So this is our goal that we want to achieve. And key results are really the path to it, and the answer to how do we measure if we get there. So we always have a figure in the key result that we can measure, and we have metrics that we can measure, and we can always say when we are working with objectives and key results, how good are we on the path? Do we need to adjust something? Do we need to help this team? And so on. How does this start? At the beginning, you have a OKR planning and alignment session or sessions. Depends on how big is your company. And the interesting thing is that you have a bottom-up process and a top-down process. So as I said, we take the molds coming from the management, but also the team level has the possibility to bring objectives up in the other direction. So this means alignment of goals, alignment of objectives in the different levels. So we have the management level, the department level, the team levels. All of them are building up or planning their OKRs for the next cycle, and then we align them between those levels, and we align them horizontally between teams, between departments, and so on. As I said, the circle duration is mostly 3 months. I heard today from my colleague that over 80% of the circles are on 3 months level. And after this OKR planning and alignment session, you have these 3 months. You have a weekly stand-up or check-in meeting to see how good are we going on our OKRs, what do we need to change, do we need help? And at the end of the circle, we always have a retro and review meeting to assess how good we are working on the OKRs and what we need to do better at the next circle. And then the circle starts from new. That's in a nutshell OKR. I hope this in the short time that I had, I could make a few points that you understand or better understand how we were working with this. At the end, what is the outcome? And OKR is a very outcome-oriented framework. For the organization, you have more transparency because OKR are open to everyone in the process. Everyone who is working with OKRs in a company sees all OKRs. That's a rule, and that means that you, maybe for the first time in your company, you have a total transparency over goals, also from other departments, from other teams. you have a strict focus, because you can't have 15 or 20 objectives as a team for one circle. You have 3 or 4 objectives, and that means that you really have to focus on these 3 or 4 objectives for the next 3 months. You have continuous learning because of the retro and review meetings, and you have the alignment throughout the whole organization, as I described. For your customers, the customer orientation and value creation is inherited in objectives. That's a fundamental part. When you describe an objective, you always have a client in it. If you don't have a client, it's not an objective. So that's a simple rule. Maybe it's not this way in Butter, but the companies that we are helping to bring in objectives and key results work this way. Customer always value within your objectives. For talents, for Generation Y, for Generation Z, and for Generation X, like me, you have motivation, team empowerment because of this, because you give the power of how you bring up your goals and how you work on your objectives to the team. You just align the objectives in the organization, but how the team is achieving them is a part that the team decides themselves. And of course, because it's driven, from the top of a pyramid, from purpose, vision, mission, you have a purpose-driven work, because everything you do in OKRs pays in strategy and pays in the purpose that you have described for your company. 1 second to go. And then I have fulfilled my quarter of hour. That's how I see objectives and key results, and that's as you see in the headline. That's why I think that this framework is really perfect for distributed teams, just because you have this possibility to work as a team on this also remotely, because the framework gives you the freedom to do so. And that means start doing it right now. Why not? Thanks a lot.
Bingo.
All right. Thank you, Markus.
I did not read one single word from the chat. I have to do it right now, so sorry.
Hey, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. No worries. Everyone, head over to the React button and show Markus how super crazy happy you are going to be using OKRs starting now.
That looks good.
Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Markus, thank you so much. Woo! Super bored. Christopher, it's on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Markus, for the great theory and how you're doing it. And what I want to show you, it's the messy truth, how it's working in organizations most of the time. We're dealing most of the time with organizations which don't know anything about purposes or something like this. So more older companies, more senior management, which are mostly maybe over 50, maybe sometimes over 60. So it's quite hard to show them, to translate the new work to them. But I'll show you how we are doing it, and maybe you can profit from it. The interesting thing is, how do you get to your OKR? So it's not like that you sit together in a team and you say, hey, this is the OKR, the objectives we want to follow, and we do these actions now, because this is not aligned. This is one of the main problems when it's not aligned with yourself, with the team, with the organization. And the tricky question is, how do you get to this alignment? And I want to show our process here. I share my screen. I try to share my Miro here. So this is our Workshopable strategy workshop. This is the heart, what we can offer strategy-wise. And it's a 3-day workshop in the end. We do this over 3 days, 3 hours per day, and it's completely remote. And I just quickly go through it with you. So everything starts with icebreaker, introduction for sure. And with the workshop principles we have, going over quite fast. But then we start already with the challenge map, and we try to frame the problem on this map so that everybody is aligned what we are talking about from this team orientation or from a company orientation or for product orientation. Then we transform everything in how might we statements. We collected upfront and expert interviews. So how we are doing the workshops is always with upfront expert interviews. Everybody in the workshop who is participating in it is being asked for nearly half an hour to an hour with their statements for this. And all the troubles and problems get rewritten in how might we challenges and then voted on in the workshop. So everybody is aligned very quickly about the opinions of the others without any discussions in the workshop itself. So I can't show everything. My team has forbidden me to show everything what we do here. But the next thing what we do is align to the purpose. So either the organization has a very great purpose already, and you have to align with it on the team, or you just create your own new purpose in the whole process. And most of the time we're doing this because organizations we work with, they hardly have any purpose. And each team, each project team, they most of the time need a purpose for this. Then we create our guiding policies here, where we define the rules and the boundaries of the whole framework. And then we continue to the critical questions. So what are the big obstacles which are in our way? Those are questions we have to overcome, and they're usually yes or no questions in the end. And this is all what we do on the first day in the 3 hours. And then we just generate our purpose, guiding policies, and critical questions. And we have our working board. And with this, we just continue on the next day. So I'm going down to the next day. And here we have our ideation day. We try to find good examples out there, lightning demos here. So this is examples from other strategies. People have seen products, whatever, so that people just upload everything in their brains when it goes to the ideation part, where they really have to create their own strategy. And these cards can look completely differently. But each strategy should answer to the can we questions, for instance. So at least 1 or 2 can we questions should be in it. So how can we overcome this? How can we overcome our hurdles in the future with this strategy? So this is most of the time super customized for whatever we are working with. And then on the last day, we just align on the strategies. We go through the concepts. We vote on them. And then from the concepts itself, we start to build slowly our OKRs. So we build a roadmap. And on this roadmap, we just, all people just fill in how they think a timeline for the strategy should look like. And yes, most of the time, longer maybe than 3 months. But they try to break it down in short steps. Till we come here, finally, to our OKR board, where we have, again, everything ready for them to see, the purpose, the can we questions, the guiding principles, and everything lined up. And everybody creates then their own OKRs for the team. So everybody tries to create, since 5 key results. In this case, there's one objective. This is the main objective, which is the strategy. And then everything, how we want to reach a strategy is in the key findings, in the actions here. So what key results do you want to achieve? And what is the success metric? So it should be measurable, the metric. And then when everybody fills out their own board, there is a voting going on again. And we see then what the team really wants to do, and also the framing or how they want to have the wording in this key result, which is also very important most of the time. And then in the end, maybe a decider role decides really what are the key results for this team. And when this is finished, I'm just hopping over to my second PDF presentation. So when this is finished, we generate a handover, because most of the time you're maybe not involved for a full cycle for 3 months or a year with a client, and then you just your work stops here more or less. So you have to have a very good handover with the results of the workshop. So do you see the handover? Yes, I think you see the PDF. And we just list again quite fast what are OKRs again, so that our senior management understands it, what this is, what they see here. And then they get presented such a roadmap. It's just an objective. And it's very important that in this strategy workshop, we also vote on a lead. Who has the OKR lead within the team? And most teams, who are they are reporting to? So every week or every 2 weeks, this lead has to report about the objectives to the team or to whoever. And we'd really try to set up the next steps, which is very important with these OKRs. Because yes, you can write the OKR. Now the expensive workshop happened, and then everything dies because it's not going to live anymore. And we really try to customize with each team how this can be incorporated in their culture if we are not all the time with this team. And we also tell them, hey, this is an OKR now, 60-year-old manager. Now you have to create subtasks for this, and please do this this way, because you have to you have to get to this key result, but this is smaller tasks. This is your job to do in the end. We also show them in their program, like in Microsoft Teams, how they are going to do this, how they should implement it within their cultural approved tools, which is very important, and try to help them to overcome these basic steps, how to bring this in their tooling. And there's this reports, and this is the short version of it. And then we have the appendix with the whole map, what we did, with a PDF in it. So you can always download a very clear and crisp PDF. What you see the key challenges again, why we came up with this OKR, which is very important, that people are aligned why we came up with what, even when they are maybe not involved in this workshop. With such a handover PDF, they can see everything and understand why some decisions were made in the objective and key results. So there's a 2-year goal, there are the critical questions in it, the demos, the voted concepts, and the base OKRs. And this is how we are doing it with Workshopable. And I knew I only need 10 minutes, but we are quite open for questions now, whatever you have.
Wow, I have a question. straight from the get-go. That seems like a lot of work. Like, that's a lot. Those are, I don't know how many workshops, you have to trickle it down. There's a lot of stickies, there's a lot of voting. So how often do companies go through that process? Because if it's indeed every 3 months, which obviously in the VUCA world, it's it's the minimum that you can do, right? Because things are changing so fast in 3 months. Isn't there a resistance from the teams? And isn't this maybe one of the reasons why OKRs don't really function in a lot of companies? Because they need a lot of care and love until you kind of identify them, and then you have to bring them and make them live. So I'm curious to hear about some best practices there. Like,
it's all about consistency for sure. Sunday Pichai at Google, he was the head of Chrome. He tried to have the same OKR for over years. He just wants to grow Chrome users from 20 million users to over 100 million users. And he just took the same objective every year. So we also make a big workshop happen first up front, which can last then at least for a year. So you can build upon what you have created already in the OKRs, and should not be, from our standpoint, redone in this big way every 3 months, because then you should have, your purpose and the strategy, the bigger strategy picture at least. And yeah, you should be aligned. But definitely you should review after 3 months the OKRs internally in your team. And this is also where we can help with.
So the whole purpose with the how my we's, with the main challenges, that's not something that has to be done every 3 months, right? Through that process. That's probably a yearly process, and then the actual OKRs.
What I see in all workshops, if it's not quite long and repeat it quite often, people don't get it and they are not aligned. And when you do a 1 hour meeting session, the OKRs, which will come out from a 1 hour meeting session, in my opinion, are not working. They get neglected, nobody uses them, and nobody takes them seriously. But is there some sweat in this whole process? It's different. You have an investment in it.
All right.
And it's super aligned. Yeah.
And it's super aligned. Yeah. Any other questions? You can pop them in the chat or queue yourself using the queue function to your left, and then you'll get the mic.
So I'm curious about, we made the whole process with workshops, and then we have the OKRs and the handover, whatever. But what I've never seen is a very good implementation in the tools of the client to really live the OKRs. Yes, maybe Asana has some goal setting OKRs, which is the nearest I've ever seen, which is incorporated in some tool, which can work. But to have these OKRs always present in your tooling you use all the time, there is no such thing which I know of. And maybe the audience has.
Maybe I can answer first. There are dedicated OKR tools that we are working with, like WorkPass, GTM Hub. And what we see is that they try, both of them, to, through APIs, to bring them into the tools. So with Jira, Asana, also MS Teams, you can use them on your platform that you are using with your team. So I think this might be a possible thing, because I'm on your side when you, of course, you can put all your OKRs in an Excel, and you can do it in Confluence, yes, but maybe it's not the best possibility. So, and I think the bigger your company is, and the more and more teams you get into your OKR system, you will need also an OKR tool to have this top view on all the processes that are within the OKR system.
I think I'm looking for the butter for OKR somehow, which is really smooth and integrated and makes fun to use. This is also the usability factor. It's just not fun to use over a long time, and this is quite hard to solve. Yeah, there are many tools out there who try to do it, but I haven't experienced a 100% solution which fits perfectly in the remote team setting and which makes fun to use daily. I can't describe what I want, but this is something like this. After OKRs.
If you're a founder who wants to bring a useful product into this world and are listening to this recording, get in touch with Christopher. He can be your first research subject, and let's bring this tool into the world. Gracek has a question in the chat. Thank you both for sharing. If the company does not have a clear 3-year or 5-year goal, but it has a clear mission and vision, is OKR still a good tool to be used as goal setting for the team? So there are no goals as a company, but there's a clear vision and mission.
Of course, OKR is the right tool. The problem is that you don't have the goals. I think that's the answer. You can of course use OKRs because you just break it down, your vision, your mission, and maybe the teams have their year goals or 3-year goals, I don't know. And so you can use OKRs also, but of course it's better to do it like Christopher explained, in a smooth process where you just align this, because this is really maybe it feels like an overhead, but it's really a prerequisite to have a good vision and to have a good strategy and to have good yearly goals that are derived from the strategy. And you really should work on this to have this, and then put your OKRs on it.
Yeah. So to create team goals, this is within our workshop, because we know getting goals or good goals from the main structure is quite hard most of the time. An example for this, we did the OKR workshop with a remote company selling products in the US with the headquarter in Europe. And they were completely different culture. Everybody is different there. They're completely detached from the culture and the organization in Europe, more or less. And they had no lead for 2 years. And we really made this workshop happen. And it's the first time they had a strategy, even though there's a bigger company over them. But it's the first time they really had something to do. Also, the manager who's managing the company there, he has now the tool of OKRs. He was the OKR lead to be more proactive. So even though there are companies out there, you can't, most of the time, they don't have any strategy to go with. And this is super interesting. And OKRs is a very fast tool to provide the tool to them.
Awesome. Milagros has a question. Milagros, do you want to pop on the mic and ask it, or I can just also read it? Okay. In your experience, how do you have to focus the focus in the teams on OKRs, especially when they could change over time, the sense of priorities in the team, and when the team says things like, "We had been reviewed it from time to time." How do you keep the focus of the team on the OKRs, especially when the priorities are changing really, really fast? I think, Milagros, tell me if I'm messing this up.
No, absolutely not. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
My advice would be very simple, to shorten the cycle to 2 months and to set less objectives. So maybe you had a longer cycle and you had 5 or 6 objectives per team, and then you don't have any focus anymore, and you have these changes in the strategy or in the priorities. But when you really want to focus, why not take it just for a 2-month cycle and do 2 objectives?
Yeah, sure. Shorter cycle. But also then you can also ideate better maybe on your strategy before this, when you know you have a lot of fast-paced projects in front of you on different viewpoints. So you can take this into account in this workshop as well when you create the objectives.
The question that comes now from what Milagros said is, can you change them? Like, if I've set them up for the next 3 months, but 1 month in, I'm like, okay, one of them doesn't stand. Can I change it? And what do I do next? Like, what's the next process? Because something changed, context changes, etc.
Yeah, but then you follow a new strategy in the end, and you have to refocus again with a new objective, with something unforeseen for sure.
Okay. And Mayor has a question. Mayor, do you want to ask it?
Sure. So how often do OKRs impact the stress levels as a burden and cause mistakes of perfectionism? Like, I really have to do this, so while trying to achieve that, I feel the burden and the stress, so I make mistakes more. How often does this happen?
Not always mistakes are bad. Mistakes can help to lead to another level, and to first of all, to let you learn from them. So I think this is part of the whole game. And as Christopher said, I have this. I know this example too. The stretch goals for Google Chrome, and they had the objective to build the best browser in the world, and they set a very, for the beginning, 20 million users, and this was a really huge number to achieve. And of course, this causes stress because when you do a normal planning, you maybe would have said 2 or 5 million, or I don't know. But when you say 20 million, you think different, and you search for different solutions, and not for the common solution. And that's why we use stress, positive stress, if you want, for OKRs too, with this stretch goals. When I just can say this as a last sentence, I would say there are mistakes in there. There is stress because of a non-focused OKR system. As I said, when you have 5 objectives in a team, this is too much. This is just too much for a 3 months cycle. And this isn't focus anymore. Focus means I have 2 or 3 objectives to concentrate on. And when the manager comes and you did this and this and this and this is all this, everything is important. That when everything is important, nothing is important. So focus means to reduce stress also.
All right.
Completely agree.
To add, Christopher?
Just to add one sentence, I think the OKRs are also building up security for the employee, because he knows a goal. He has a goal, and when he is achieving this, this is the way to go. So you can also reduce stress in this case.
Awesome. Well, we're at time, 4 minutes overtime, actually. Thank you, Markus, and thank you, Christopher, for sparking this conversation for us. There's definitely a lot to unpack there. Or has shared as well a really nice resource in the chat. Thank you for that, Or. I've popped the link to the next Collab Fest session. It is a fishbowl conversation with everyone who joins. So join. We're talking about facilitation as skill for the future. It's happening in 1 hour and 15 minutes. And it was a pleasure to see your faces. It was a pleasure to read your questions. Thank you very much. And stay tuned. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Yay.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.